Hello and welcome to another Magic the Gathering Arena Brawl video, where this time we're going to be looking at a zombie deck with fresh Perishables. So, as far as zombies go with Midnight Hunt and Crimson Vow, there's been quite a little bit of support here and there, as well as a bit more from Kaldheim in Na'vi Betrayer King, and there's a few cards as such with that, so It's interesting because there's quite a few really good cards in it that are able to sort of bring it together, and they're all slightly different in how they go about it, so there's a fair bit of variety you can go with. This build was originally made for Midnight Hunt and just didn't get finished, and by the time I got around to it I'd seen all of the spoilers and decided to hold off for post Midnight Hunt with Crimson Vow. And have, as such, added in a few extra things like Geralf Visionary Stitcher and Necroduality, which are both really powerful cards for zombies, since one gives them all flying, and the other one doubles all of our non-token zombies that enter the battlefield. So, the deck is pretty straightforward. We're playing out our zombies, we're trying to overwhelm our opponent with the sheer numbers and undying horde that we have. We don't have that much in terms of the exploit options. I've not got the blue-black exploit creature in here, because I do want to have quite a few non-creature spells, mostly instants and sorceries still, because of the Poppet Stitcher, which will just be able to make all of our zombies bigger and get rid of the decayed downside, which does give us a fair little bit of removal for answering our opponent's threats, whilst leaving stuff open. So, that's essentially the game plan, at least. So, similarly, Snow is our mana base because not only does it let us recur Na'vi as opposed to having to pay each time Na'vi gets killed, it gives us access to Priest of the Haunted Edge as a decent option for removal, Draugr Necromancer for being able to make use of the stuff that we're killing with our opponent's stuff, and also Faceless Haven. We could also Blood on the Snow, which was in the list at one point, and it's essentially not in here just because of wildcards, essentially. I've not pulled one, and whilst it is a good option for me to craft still, I've decided, I've not got around to it, and I've just decided at this point that it's probably fine without it, since hopefully we're going to be going wide enough that the one creature we recur isn't going to matter quite as much. And that could be the case if it was a Draugr Necromancer, for example, that we would benefit from the Blood on the Snow more, since we could exile everything and then return the Draugr Necromancer and still cast the stuff with the ice counters. However, for the time being, we're going to just see how it performs on its own. Hopefully it will do well. So let's get into some games. Okay, we're starting off against a Tazri Beacon of Unity. This seems like an alright hand with us going first. I'll have to drop this as a swamp, well, as a black source, but other than that, it's pretty decent. We've got 3 mana. We have a creature we can drop turn 2, removal we can use turn 3, or we can drop the Archghoul. So I quite like it. This is going to be party focused, I'm sure. And having access to some removals, good for that. Opponent starting with black does mean that they could potentially have removal for us right off the bat. But I think we'll live optimistically and go for the white. Alright, so far they're just ramping. I think well, they could still have their 1 mana piece of removal. Alright, nothing so far. Agadeem's Awakening is tempting to play as a land as well, just because the triple black is going to be pretty hard to land at the moment. I don't think there's any 1 mana removal options that aren't bounce, so we'll swing with that first, and then I'll Archghoul of Thraben. So if they do now kill the white, we do get to look at the top card and potentially get it into our hand. Okay, they're foretelling a card. Could be Doomscar. I mean, it could be anything there. 5 colour. Ooh. Poppet Stitcher is tempting. So, well, let's start by going to combat and attacking. The opponent has something they can do. I presume they're wanting to remove one of these, but are worried that I'll play a bigger threat. I think I'm going to hold back for now, because if they do have a board wipe, I don't want to overdevelop. And I've not got the mana to Poppet Stitcher and use removal. So if we hold up the removal, in case they play something, because Tazri could now theoretically come out. Okay, a Welcoming Vampire. And they still have removal open, so I will just take out the Welcoming Vampire. Oh, and then immediately into a Droga Necromancer. Well, I shall pay the life on this and drop the Nafi. Since if it gets countered, it goes to graveyard, and I can bring it back for 3 mana anyway. And if they want to use removal on something else, then I've still got the board developed. Alright, that's fine. I will decline that action. I will keep that on top. Yep, there's the Doomscar. I will decline on both of those. So, Geralf doesn't do anything immediately on entry. If I can get one more land... It was unfortunate, I maybe should have thrown it into graveyard. However, I do think I'll just return Nafi for now, since Nafi provides us a decent threat. Alright, everything is now a cleric. That is going to be useful. Everything's now every creature types, and then I just need the right number of things in order to finish things off. However, I think I can use the overcharged Amalgam, sacrifice Nafi to counter a big thing they play, so that cleric doesn't grow, and then I can swing in and also activate Nafi to make it bigger. Don't particularly fancy countering that ability on its own. They are presumably just trying to get Tazri cheaper, and I'd rather counter Tazri. Decline that. And this can also fly over. Alright, that is a land, so I think we start out by returning Nafi. And swinging in for 4. And I think I'll then... Do I drop the Fellstinger, sacrifice Nafi for more card draw? I might as well, I think. We'll get this on black. That's probably a mistake, because now I can't recur Nafi, Nafi and Geralf, so I guess I'll drop this and won't exploit it. Because if I can drop Geralf anyway, then we can fly over for lethal. They have to either remove the Amalgam currently or a blocker. That's got flying. That one does have flying. However, if they transform it to get the lifelink... Nope. Okay, they're playing it risky. They look like they might be considering removal. Oh, that can't block. So I think that's going to be game. Because they now only have one blocker available. And we get into the win. So, yeah, I think this probably should have been an island still, so that I could use the Fell Stinger to sacrifice Nafi for the card draw. I could also theoretically have done it for 2 extra damage to my opponent, which wasn't relevant at this stage, but yeah, I think it did actually work out better in the end, since this way it did develop a bigger board, and given that they'd already used one board wipe, and this deck does ultimately want to have multiple creatures to get that party reduction, they wouldn't be running too many of them. Alright, this will not do because that is a Katilda Dawnhart Prime. I am going to want removal as quickly as possible. That will be... both of these enter tapped. That's a lot of removal I've got, but... okay, we're going to have to keep this and hope we draw another land. We have 2 turns to do it. There we go, we drew another land. Alright, let us remove this immediately. Next turn I will probably Harbinger and Port. Alright, that can make things go wide pretty quickly, but I think I'm still fine with this setup. I do still have 2 pieces of removal, though I can only use 1 at the moment because I've only got 1 black source, which is also unfortunate for Ebon Death. Alright, they're doing a setup turn. However, that being their play... ooh... I think I'm going to draw the Necromancer first. This may be a mistake, since they can get a trigger from Torrens now, and if they get a land, they can get counters on things. But I can then remove Torrens and have Torrens in my arsenal. Oh, and them not going wide makes it even better for me. That's a little less fortunate, but I can still remove Torrens easily enough, and that is their turn. I could exile Torrens. So, options. Exile Torrens. If I drop this, I can Eaten Alive. That's another non-token creature. I don't have anything to sacrifice currently, so... I do think I just exile Torrens and swing in for 1. I may have to check my mana base just after this game. They're going to start making a few more tokens there. But yes, I may need to check my mana base just because in the last game as well, we seemed just a little bit short on actual tokens. So I think at this stage I'm going to drop the Geralt. They are both sorcery, so I could remove one. However, I think I'm fine for the time being, since the removal is, like, it doesn't matter how big they get, it's straight up removal. The plus side to doing it would be that they then have less mana if they play out Katilda, but playing out Katilda doesn't give them a net positive, so anything that they could play, they would have been able to have played anyway. Alright, Thalia is a bit of a problem. Alright. No blocks. Ooh, Poppet Stitcher. Yeah, Poppet Stitcher first into an Eaten Alive. Seems good to me. And we will... I mean, I'm currently still screwed on mana, so there is an argument for... But then they can just start pumping everything with Katilda next turn, so... We'll sacrifice the Carfell. Get rid of that. They can replay it again, but that is their turn. This mana situation has been quite unfortunate. This is just a +1/+1 counter on each creature you control. Yep. So I think of the creatures on the board currently, Sun Gold Sentinel is the bigger one to get rid of. Since it can exile my Ebon Death. Oh yeah, that happens as well. Alright, this is difficult though. Yeah, I think honestly I've lost this game at this stage. Not having drawn a land for this long, having to deal with all of these various threats at once. Like Thalia's getting first, right? This is going to be able to buff up the entire team next turn. So I do think I am just going to concede at this point. Since, yeah, this was a little bit unfortunate. I think we had a great opening hand. At least for dealing with Katilda, we were able to slow down that advance. This Inscription of Abundance definitely put us back, since had we been able to keep the Droga Necromancer around before removing Torrens, then Torrens goes, we then have a turn of playing out Torrens ourselves, and we had a bunch of 1/1 zombies and such that would grow our board to be able to buy some time. Yeah. This is, this was unfortunate. That massively slowed down stuff, and maybe I should have hit Thalia over the Katilda, since Katilda could be replayed, but I didn't particularly want them to buff their entire team, and that's ultimately the issue at this stage, is Like, land drop, everything gets a +1/+1 counter. Don't kill Katilda, everything gets a +1/+1 counter. And, yeah, Thalia and Sun Gold both just hurt my game plan. The Puppet was a great draw, but then the Thalia was slowing down what we could do because yeah, like, without Thalia there, we Deadly Dispute, we hopefully draw another black land, since that also was massively hurting, and once we're there, we then can still feed the swarm something. But oh well. Alright, on double checking, yeah, I've got 9 blue to 31 black in here, and I've got 6 to 9 islands and swamps, so I am going to reduce that, especially since I've also got these here. Increase that there. It might actually even be worth, yeah, going one more. Overcharged Amalgam is the only one that really matters, and for double blue at least. So I think this should be fine. And if it's not, then I can cut one more of these lands for an Evolving Wilds. Alright, I'm gonna keep this, because I find it absolutely hilarious given that we're specifically going against a Jadar deck. Oh, well, they get my Eaten Alive. That's a shame, but it's not a big deal. I won't reveal the hive just yet. Ooh, Necroduality is one of those great cards if I'm able to get the blue mana. Now, I think I do Jadar first, since I do want the token to sacrifice the Fell Stinger. But yes, I get the extra benefit from the blue compared to the Jadar. However, Jadar's got likely a lot more of the sacrifice-based effects to capitalize on those zombie tokens. They kill my Jadar, which is incredibly rude of them, but also not completely unexpected. Alright, Jarl of the Forsaken. So, I shall drop my Fell Stinger and sacrifice this token. Oh, do they have removal that they're going to use in response? Didn't seem to be the case. However, I got my snow-covered island, which is great, because I can then Necroduality next turn. They will always be able to get their trigger from that. But yes, I have one more turn of setup with Necroduality, and then we start getting a lot of good value coming in. The other good thing is they're only playing basic swamps, so they're not likely to have their Blood on the Snow, and if they do, they're not getting anything back with it. Yep, no blocks. Alright. One more turn of setup. Now watch as they have their Feed the Swarm in hand, and then I'm going to be really miserable. Okay, that can force me to sacrifice. Yep. Not too surprising. But all in all, perfectly fine. Okay, so the white will enter tapped. I could have that and flash it in, however, that's not able to block that. I think I'll play this and keep the flip the switch open. Because I believe the wording on this is, yeah, whenever a creature got damaged by it this turn dies. Okay, I presume they draw a card. Yep. Alright, another big hit in there. That Shambling Ghast does disincentivize the attack somewhat. Alright, they get to discard one of these cards. Wait, do they have... Oh, they have two, so I can select both my lands. They get to choose which land gets thrown away. Oh wait, I could have countered that one with the flip the switch. What am I doing? I specifically didn't do anything last turn to hold that up, and then I completely forgot about it. So... okay then. Well, getting the Shipwrecked Marsh is great. I shall foretell this. That could potentially kill two things, but the issue is Henrika's got flying, so... yeah. I think I just hold back for now. Try and disincentivize the attack. So I believe, yeah, that's just whenever a creature dealt damage by it dies. So I guess I could have also Narfied, that would have been safer. You know what? Sure, I'll counter that. Sure, it gives them an open turn. But that's 2 damage down. These 3 can't attack, it's just Henrika, which is a big threat still. However, this does reduce the things that are coming, and also I can swing in with the white and then Jarl. Ah, that's another flying Death Toucher. Oh, that's a Bloodchief's Thirst. Okay. So. I can play this, and I have both of these up. That will copy Narfi, and then could send the real Narfi to graveyard, and keep the copy on the field so that I can bring that back at some point immediately. So, I definitely want to kill something with the Bloodchiefs first. I have to pay into it to get rid of either of those, though. And I think this can pump. So each creature gets +1/+0. So they can do that twice, so that would be 5, potentially. Okay. I think we start by swinging in with this. And see if they do anything about it. Because if they block with the Nighthawk Scavenger, I can deal with both of these threats. So, Nighthawk Scavenger definitely dead. Bloodchief's Thirst. You are definitely dead. Okay. We're slowly stabilizing. They have a Crawl from the Cellar, so they can get one of those things back. But then they can't immediately replay it without another land. I am dangerously close to dead. However... yeah, so... they make the Shambling Ghast bigger, they get back Henrika. basically forced to block... Or am I forced to block that? So, I lose 1 life anyway. Down to... So I'll go down to 5, I'll go down to 4. If I go 1 more turn, I can Nafi and then safely block. But... Oh no, if I block like that... Yeah, okay. If I block like that, then I think I still get a 2/2 zombie. Their card doesn't get exiled because it's a token, or it does, but... Actually, no, that... I think... No, it still counts as dying. Okay. Malakia Rebirth is really not what I want to see this time. Like, it technically is playable, but it also is gonna be the death of me anyway. So... Alright. The one I wish to keep the token. I will decline that action. Actually, the downside of this is I now can't Malakia Rebirth it. Malakia Rebirth does return it tapped. So I want to keep the white on defense. So I think the best option is to attack with just this zombie. And Hostile can only be activated as a sorcery, so yeah, it's pretty bad. Now if they force a sack, I can sacrifice the 3/3 zombie. Or I could theoretically Malakia Rebirth and get 2 copies of white, but I'd rather save that for later, so... Henrika is a problem that I need to be able to deal with. And I currently cannot. That doesn't help all that much. Okay, so... State of affairs. The opponent can transform Henrika, and they've got 6 mana, so they can pump it twice. For 5, I am dead on board. So... what can I do? This doesn't have flying, this doesn't have flying. So yeah, I think we just call the good game. And I'm going to just swing out. Unfortunately, Jadar sniping our Eaten Alive just allowed them to get so much continuous value from Jadar early on. And also me just completely fluffing it with this flip the switch on the acquisitions expert, which honestly, given it was 2 lands, probably not the biggest deal still, but yeah. Yeah, okay, they've decided to just take the entire lot. And then I'll concede. Because I am not able to come back. I am out of this game, and yeah, that's unfortunate. Jadar obviously isn't necessarily just zombies. Zombies are pretty good for sack fodder because they die anyway, so things like Henrika are great value there. But yeah, but unfortunately in this specific instance, it got the better of us. Alright, Yasharn. Well, there's a Poppet Stitcher in hand, there is a white, and there is removal, so I think this is a keepable hand. We Ice Tunnel, Hive of the Eye Tyrant, Snow Covered. And that makes it even better. Now I do believe this stops us from sacrificing things, or paying life, so it's a pretty good hoser for some of our things, but I don't think too much relies on it. That actually gets shut down by it, amusingly. Alright, white out. This does, however, hose our Necroduality, so we'll have to be careful with that. I do think that it's probably going to be Poppet Stitcher next turn, and then the turn after that we'll probably double removal, if we can. Okay, it looks like we're probably going to be double removing. Alright, let us swing with our white. I doubt they'll trade the Luminarch. I appear to have been correct. Let's drop our Stitcher. Now here's the question, do they have their own removal for my Stitcher? It's very probable. They've not used any yet. They can put a +1/+1 counter on Luminarch. They can attack with the Luminarch, and then they can fight afterwards. They don't even have to fight. That is a shame. However, we shall... Do we definitely use removal? Because I could also Ebon Death. But then it becomes night, and that transforms. So... there are pros and cons to both of these. What else could I do? I could play this as a land so that I get a turn 5 Nafi. But no, I think we will pass. We'll let it become night, because I can still double spell the turn after. And yeah, and I think Ebon Death will provide the necessary pressure we need to push through. Because I have enough removal here to be able to deal with all of this. Alright, now the question of where do they put it? Alright, still on the Luminarch, I see. I will take 4 more damage. Alright, Ebon Death, come down. That is a land, which makes this even better, because I can then Thirst to kill this. Swing in with this. And I still have my Mauling up. I could have played both spells to transform the Trap Breaker back, but I don't think it's that necessary. Alright, so I shall Mauling you. So, do I block here or not? It takes 6, I swing back for 8. I think I take it. Because I can drop Nafi. yeah, I can drop Nafi and I can swing back for even more. I should have played the Snow-Covered Island first, just so I had black untapped. However, next turn I can use my 3 snow sources here to bring back Nafi after a chump block, and then I can use Infernal Grasp as removal to swing in for lethal. So they need to drop 2 creatures to effectively block it, or some form of removal. And if that's it, then I think we're good. Ooh. Ooh, they didn't even swing. So... alright. Do they have protection? Doesn't appear they do. Good game. Alright. Amusingly, I think if they played Yasharn, instead of Ashaya... No, it wouldn't have made a difference because I could remove the Yasharn first, so... I was thinking, it's like, oh yeah, the sacrifice was what made that at the end, but I would have been able to remove it with the other piece anyway. So, yeah, that all worked out in our favour. We had... and this is the plus with how much removal we have is, yeah, sure, the Poppet Stitcher bit the bullet before we got any of the zombies from this, but the plus side in response to that is we still had removal to deal with every threat that the opponent put down. So that was the deck in action, and I think on the whole it did fairly decently. It had its ups, it's had its downs. There were situations where all of our removal benefited us, and there were some situations where the lack of zombies to consolidate for that came back to bite us. But I'm quite happy with it in enough of a design sense, as well, at least once we sorted out the mana issues with just a few too many islands. That was making a lot of our black plays a lot harder to pull off. This does feel much more workable with it. So yeah, there's definitely a few options that I don't think this is like the, this is the best possible deck that could be made. Like, the flip the switch could easily be switched out for something else. It makes a zombie token, which is nice, as opposed to a hard counterspell. But then running another counterspell with, more modality, just like Washed Ashore, I think it is. The new Cleave one, is just a better option. Hard removal is, I think, in ample amounts. Honestly, I could cut some of these, like Inscription of Ruin, some of the more sorcery speed ones, and in fact, I think, this was here because it can also return the 1 and 2 mana creatures, so it's a plus. But something like Soul Shatter being replaced with the Hero's Downfall, or even Poison the Cup being cut for Hero's Downfall, so just as options. Carfell Harbinger is decent because of the fact we have a few Foretell spells, but is honestly, and also the instants and sorceries, but isn't amazing. It does work somewhat well with Geralf in making a bigger zombie, but yeah. I think it's perfectly serviceable as a deck, but I also can see plenty of room for improvement. It's not wowed me in the way that some of my decks have, that I've gone, yeah, this is it, this is the deck, this is how it will run. So, I'll play around with it a bit more. I might take out some more instants and sorceries, go more zombie heavy, and include things like the exploit scab and some of the skeletons that there's that recurring skeleton that I think you can keep sacrificing, which does also get boosted by Death Priest of Merkel, funnily enough, who serves as a lord who in themselves could also potentially be cut for something else, although it didn't turn up in many of the games, so it's hard to say for certain. However, that was the deck in action. I hope you enjoyed it, even if it's not necessarily the best. Take care, and I hope to see you next time.